The room erupted with laughter, but my heart stopped. It was supposed to be a harmless joke. A throwaway comment made during a sunny afternoon gathering with friends. The kind of joke people make without thinking. Yet the moment she smiled and quietly said, "I'd love that," everything changed. In that single second, the world I thought I understood suddenly looked completely different. Before we begin, if you believe kindness, friendship, and second chances can change lives, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone special, and subscribe to Lifeline Hub for more emotional stories that touch the heart. My name is Rowan Hale, and for most of my adult life, I believed love was something that happened to other people. Not because I was bitter. Not because I didn't want it. But because every time I thought I had found it, life seemed to pull it away. By the time I turned 32, I had accepted that some people were destined for great romances while others simply became spectators. What I didn't realize was that the greatest love story of my life had been standing beside me the entire time. Her name was Sienna Mercer. We met during our first year of college. It was a bright autumn morning. Students rushed across campus carrying books and coffee cups while trying to find classrooms they would forget a week later. I was sitting alone beneath a tree, completely overwhelmed by the chaos around me. Then a girl dropped an entire stack of papers directly onto my lap. The wind scattered them everywhere. She laughed. I laughed. And somehow neither of us stopped laughing for almost 10 minutes. That was the beginning. Over the years, we became inseparable. We studied together. Worked part-time jobs together. Survived exams together. Celebrated victories together. Mourned losses together. People constantly assumed we were dating. At first, we corrected them. Then we got tired of explaining. Eventually, we simply laughed and moved on. Life after graduation wasn't easy. I struggled to build a career. The company I joined collapsed after 2 years. The next job barely paid enough to cover rent. Meanwhile, Sienna worked tirelessly as a graphic designer, slowly building a reputation through determination and talent. Whenever life knocked me down, she was there. When my father passed away unexpectedly, she sat beside me during the funeral and held my hand when I couldn't stop shaking. When I lost another job months later, she showed up with groceries and spent the evening pretending everything would be okay until I started believing it myself. She never asked for recognition. She never expected anything in return. She simply stayed. Year after year. Through every failure. Through every disappointment. Through every chapter of my life. Yet somehow, I never questioned why. Maybe because I was afraid of the answer. Maybe because I couldn't imagine risking the friendship that had become the foundation of my existence. Then came the summer everything changed. It was one of those perfect daytime afternoons that seemed lifted from a movie. The sky was brilliantly blue. The air felt warm but comfortable. A group of friends had organized a picnic at a park overlooking a lake. Children ran through open fields. Families gathered beneath trees. The atmosphere felt peaceful and effortless. I remember sitting on a blanket beside Sienna while everyone shared stories and jokes. At one point, one of our friends laughed and asked why we still weren't married. The question wasn't new. We had heard it hundreds of times before. Without thinking, I smiled and replied that maybe my best friend was basically my wife already. Everyone laughed. Including me. Then the laughter faded. Because Sienna wasn't laughing. Instead, she looked directly at me. Her smile softened. And in a voice barely above a whisper, she said she would love that. For a moment, nobody spoke. The sounds of the park seemed to disappear. The conversations around us faded into silence. All I could hear was my heartbeat. I wanted to say something. Anything. But my mind had gone completely blank. Sienna quickly looked away. The conversation moved on. People started talking again. Yet nothing felt normal anymore. Because for the first time, I realized there might be feelings hidden beneath years of friendship. Feelings I had never allowed myself to examine. That evening, I couldn't sleep. Memories flooded my mind. Every smile. Every late-night conversation. Every moment she stood beside me when everyone else walked away. Questions I had avoided for years suddenly demanded answers. Why had I always felt calmer when she was near? Why was she the first person I wanted to call whenever something happened? Why did every important memory somehow include her? The answers terrified me. Because they suggested something I wasn't ready to admit. I loved her. Maybe I always had. The realization should have made me happy. Instead, it filled me with fear. What if I was wrong? What if I confused friendship with something deeper? What if pursuing those feelings destroyed the most important relationship in my life? For weeks, I kept my distance emotionally. Not physically. We still met regularly. Still talked. Still spent time together. But inside, I was battling uncertainty. Sienna seemed different too. Quieter. More careful. As if she regretted revealing something she had kept hidden for years. The distance between us grew. Not because we wanted it. Because neither of us knew what came next. Then one morning, everything changed again. I received devastating news. The small company where I finally found stability announced major layoffs. My position was eliminated. Just like that. Months of hard work disappeared. The familiar weight of failure returned. I felt exhausted. Defeated. Embarrassed. I spent the afternoon wandering through the city without purpose. Eventually, my phone rang. It was Sienna. I almost ignored it. Instead, I answered. She immediately knew something was wrong. Within an hour, she found me sitting alone on a park bench. The moment she arrived, I felt my defenses crumble. I told her everything. The job. The uncertainty. The fear. The frustration. She listened quietly. When I finished, she didn't offer motivational speeches. She didn't tell me everything would magically work out. She simply sat beside me. Just like she always had. And somehow that felt enough. As the afternoon sun stretched long shadows across the grass, I finally understood something important. Every difficult chapter of my life contained one constant. Her. Not success. Not money. Not security. Her. The realization hit me with overwhelming force. I wasn't afraid of losing a friendship. I was afraid of admitting how much she meant to me. Because acknowledging that truth made me vulnerable. It meant accepting that my heart belonged to someone. And that someone was sitting beside me. The next few days felt like a storm inside my chest. I replayed every memory. Every laugh. Every shared experience. Every moment that now looked completely different. Finally, I made a decision. I couldn't continue pretending. I invited Sienna to meet me at the same lake where our friends had gathered weeks earlier. The day was bright and beautiful. Sunlight danced across the water. A gentle breeze moved through the trees. Everything looked exactly the same. Yet everything felt different. When she arrived, I could see nervousness in her eyes. The same nervousness I felt. For a few moments, neither of us spoke. Then I told her the truth. I told her how confused I had been. How scared. How blind. I told her I spent years searching for happiness without realizing it had been walking beside me the entire time. Most importantly, I told her that the joke I'd made that afternoon wasn't funny anymore. Because it no longer felt like a joke. Tears filled her eyes. And suddenly tears filled mine too. Years of unspoken feelings seemed to rise to the surface all at once. The walls we had carefully built finally collapsed. In their place stood honesty. Raw. Terrifying. Beautiful honesty. For the first time, neither of us hid what we felt. The moment wasn't dramatic in the way movies portray love. There were no fireworks. No orchestras. No grand speeches. Just two people who had spent years standing beside each other finally acknowledging what their hearts already knew. The relationship that followed wasn't perfect. Real love rarely is. We still faced challenges. Still argued occasionally. Still encountered uncertainty. But now we faced everything together in a different way. Not as friends pretending feelings didn't exist. But as partners building a future side by side. 2 years later, on another bright daytime afternoon, I stood beside that same lake once more. Only this time, family and friends surrounded us. And Sienna stood across from me wearing the happiest smile I had ever seen. As we exchanged vows, I thought about the countless moments that led us there. The college campus. The difficult years. The heartbreaks. The laughter. The fear. The friendship that became something greater. I realized that love doesn't always arrive dramatically. Sometimes it grows quietly. Patiently. Waiting for the right moment to be recognized. And sometimes the person you're searching for has been standing beside you all along. Before we reach the end, if this story touched your heart in any way, please like the video, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to Lifeline Hub for more emotional stories that remind us what truly matters. Special request, comment below and tell us, have you ever realized someone was more important to you than you first understood? Today, Sienna and I still laugh about that picnic. About the joke that changed everything. About the moment a simple sentence revealed years of hidden feelings. What seemed like an ordinary afternoon became the turning point of our lives. Because sometimes destiny doesn't arrive as a stranger. Sometimes destiny arrives disguised as your best friend. And sometimes the greatest love story begins with a joke, and ends with two hearts finally finding the courage to tell the truth. And every time I look at her, I silently thank life for giving me the chance to see what had been there all along. Not just a friend. Not just a companion. But the person who never left when life became difficult. The person who believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself. The person who taught me that the strongest relationships are often built long before they are called love. And that is why, whenever people ask how our story began, I smile. Because the answer is beautifully simple. I joked that my best friend was my wife. And she smiled and said she'd love that. The rest was destiny.